Professor, please unmute your mic, Professor.
So, am I right? Audible, sir?
Okay.
Most respected director of this, co-director of this program, Dr. Vinayamurthy sir. Most respected resource person of this program, our senior faculty member of our department, Dr. Ganapathy sir, is going to deliberate a wonderful lecture today. At the outset, I would like to invite and welcome our professor. I would say a few words about our resource person. He's a very eminent scholar. He has produced a number of PhD, and he has published a lot of articles in a reputed journal. He's a scholarly good person. Above all, he is a very nice person, and now he is going to take a wonderful lecture to you. On behalf of the Department of Commerce and my own behalf, welcome you all and welcome the resource person and all the faculty friends.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor. Now may I request and invite our Honorable Professor Dr. Ganapathy to deliver a special address on this session. Please welcome, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir.
Most respected authorities, Alagappa University, Karaikudi. Most respected authorities, ICSSR, New Delhi. Most respected course director, most respected co-course director, dear my faculty members, respected participant, very good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I extend thanks to the organizer of this capacity building program on data analysis and research methodology in social science research, given me these opportunities. I talk about the research method in social science research. Today's title is a summary of last 10 days sessions of data analysis and research methodology in social science, in the sense of the research methodology and social science research, how the researcher start and execution and overcome and complete the research work, including the report preparations. So that is a research methods. I start with the beginning. First, meaning of research. What is mean by research? Research is a church of knowledge. The church of knowledge through the objectives. The objectives is execution in the systematic method for finding a proper and feasible solution to the problems. A systematic method is very, very important, the researcher point of view. is a popularly known as research. The systematic method in the sense, the researcher first you identify the research problems. Identify the research problems. After identify the research problem, to trace the title relating to the problems. That is a title of the research. After that, the researcher they have to framing the objectives. All those objectives relating to the title of the study. Relating to the title of the study. After that, the researcher they have to collect the data relating to the objectives. The data collection completed, the researcher they have to undertake the processing of the data. After the processing, the researcher they have to framing the hypothesis relating to the objectives. Relating to the objectives. After the framing the hypothesis, the analysis of the data. The analysis of the data. The analysis of the data, the researcher to apply the appropriate statistical methods, appropriate statistics. With the help of the statistics, the researcher to test the hypothesis. The testing of hypotheses to find out the outcomes of the research. Outcomes of the research. Based on the outcomes of the research, the researcher they have to inferences the test of hypothesis. Then you have to find the solutions. There are preparations of report. Preparations of report. So these are the systematic method for finding and proper and feasible solution to the problems. It is popularly known as research. It is popularly known as. So system is very much important for the executions of research. Executions of research. Then definitions. Define research. Research according to Redmond and Mori is a systemized effort to gain new knowledge. A systematic effort to gain the new knowledge. So that is he undertaking the investigations, the beyond the obvious, beyond the obvious. That is systematic effort to gain the new knowledge. In other words, Schlesinger and Stevenson. Schlesinger and Stevenson. Research is a manipulation of things, concepts, symbol for the purpose of generalizing to extend, correct, or verify the knowledge, whether that knowledge is aid in constructs of theory or in the practice of art. Practice of an art. So that is another one definition defined by the Schlesinger and Stevenson. That is a manipulations of the things, manipulations of things. They develop the concepts, identify the symbols, So, and verify the knowledge, So that is pointed out the research by Schlesinger and Stevenson. Then, objectives of research. Objectives of research. The research, they have 7 points of objectives. Number 1, highlighting the significance of phenomena under studies. Significance of phenomena under studies. So their research, they have to touching new knowledge and find out the solutions. They have to develop their concepts and theories and models, daily and models. So that is a phenomena under studies. Number 2, to develop the new tools, concepts, and theories. After the completions of research, the researcher developed a new tools for the further study. and developing a concepts, and promote some theories for the better studies. Then to focus on the characteristics of particular individuals, situations, and a group. So these are the study concentrate for the particular individuals. Even for examples, the historical studies. The historical studies to undertake a research for a particular personality of former emperors. The situations, the social situations, they undertake the research. A particular group of characters, these are the another important characteristics of individuals or situations of group. Then to determine the frequency occurrence of particular things which is associated with the something else. It is associated with the something else. Frequency, the frequency of occurrence. Even one examples, the dengue fever in your public. What are the causes of dengue fever affected for a particular areas? So that is a frequency of occurrence. Then next, to test the hypothesis for causal relationship between the variables. The research is executing the relationship between dependent variables and independent variables. What are the relationship with the dependent variables and independent variables? That is the part of executions of research. The sixth one, to write the report based upon the findings of research. The each and every researcher at the end of the research to find out and searching new knowledge. The findings of the research, they have to promote the further studies. So that is another one important objectives. Then 7 to 1, research aid planning and thus contribute to the national development. So the each and every research outcomes, they have to making some helpful for the decision making of the government, policy decision and any other decision making by the government. Then types of research. There are 10 items of research, that is classifications of the research. The researcher accomplishment of research depends upon the any one item of research, depends upon the nature of studies. These classifications of research, the researcher to be defined as per the nature of the work. There are 10 items of research: applied research, analytical research, descriptive research, exploratory research, experimental research, pure fundamental or basic research, historical research, and empirical research, quantitative and qualitative research. We have to discuss each and every one. Applied research in the form of systematic inquiry involving the practical applications of science. So it's the applied research, they have to, the outcomes of research, they applied for any other decision making. They access and use some part of research communities for accumulated theories, knowledge, methods, technique, and for the specific and often state of business or client driven purpose. So these are the decision making, all the decision making they're taken by the government or any other business organization, the outcomes of the applied research. The applied research aims to find out a solution for a immediate problem faced by the society. Even for examples, the COVID-19 infection, how to preventing the COVID-19 infection. So that is the immediate problem faced by the government. Then some of the examples of applied research. Dengue fever in a particular area is applied research. Another one, identify the problem of marketing a particular product. Another one examples, discover a solution for a existing problems. Then practical utility to the society, individuals, and the business organizations. So these are all the few examples relating to the applied research. These types of title depends upon the applied research. Is upon the applied research. Then analytical research. Analytical research, the availability of information or data thoroughly analyzed and critical evaluations are made to solve the problems. So these are the data availability and analyze the critical evaluations are made to solve the problems. Even one examples, the growth of population during the post independence periods conducted by the census department falls under these categories. The census, after independence, the population growth, what are the reason for increasing the population growth? So these are all the study depends upon the analytical research. The financial performance of particular companies, the financial performance of particular bank, the financial performance of insurance companies or any corporates. These are all the few examples of analytical research. The another one types of research, descriptive study or descriptive research. Research aim at highlighting the state of affairs of existing problems. The former problem, how to solve the former problem, these types of research to be conducted. It is a simple report of happening both past and present events. Particular individuals, situations, group, and also the frequency of occurrence of events like frequency of accident in the particular place. So some of the highways department, they have to identifying the accidental zones. How incur the frequency of occurrences in number of times. These types of descriptive research to be conducted. Present the result on the basis of actual happening of descriptive research is called exposed factor research. Then exploratory research. The in-depth and detailed analysis. The descriptive exploratory research is in-depth and detailed analysis is called exploratory research. Research applied when conclusive result could not be obtained. The conclusive result could not be obtained in the first and preliminary stage or preliminary levels. These types of research is more suitable. Given one examples, the researcher, they have to identify the problems, framing the hypothesis, not find out the accurate conclusions. They have to framing the hypothesis, that is the test the hypothesis. The hypothesis result is the outcomes of the research. This type of research, that is exploratory research. The objectives of exploratory research, the development of hypothesis rather than the testing. The main purpose of the exploratory studies, generate the new ideas or to increase the researcher familiarities with a problem or to make a precise for formulations of the problems. How solve the problems? How preventing the problems? The exploratory studies to be undertaken. Then experimental research. The experimental research is a laboratory research. The greater control over the research environment is the chief characteristic of the experimental research. That is a laboratory equipment. The laboratory experiment, which is the basic tool for analysis in the natural and physical science. Thus, the science-based research methods. They have to find out the cause and effect relationship under the control experiments. It is a trial and error. It's trial and error under the control experiment methods. So these are the laboratory research exclusively for the physical science. Then pure or fundamental or basic research. Pure or fundamental and basic research. Then natural phenomena. It is a pure mathematics or human behavior is called fundamental or basic research. Fundamental or basic research, mainly concerned with the generalizations and formulations of theory as well. It is a generalizations and formulations of theory as well. They have to particular individual profile. They have to undertake this type of research. The basic research aim of such research for findings for information, existing organized body of scientific knowledge that has a broad base of applications. The findings of pure or basic or fundamental research form the basis for innumerable scientific and technological inventions like steam engines, telecommunications. So these are the science-based, engineering-based research. Science-based and engineering-based research developed under better human life. Pure research is helpful in the discovery of new theories and the development of existing theories. So development of existing theories, that is pure and fundamental research. Then historical research. The prompt and proper use of historical sources. The historical sources are documents, archaeological survey, remains, sculpture, coin. So these are the important evidence. These are the important evidence and sources of historical research. Even one example is the former Indian emperors. They have to conducting a profile of the individual profile of the former emperors. They have to identifying the sources from the documents, remains, and sculpture and coins. The study of events or idea of the past or its strength, fact, and attributes makes a historical research. The researcher is expected to possess much social insight and historical orientations of this purpose. So the former history of India, former history of world. So these are the research to be conducted for historical research. Then next, empirical research. The empirical research is defined as a research where conclusions of study is strictly drawn from concretely empirical evidence. Even for example, identifying the variables, our social science research or business research, the empirical research, they have to finding the problems, framing the objectives-based data, the data collected through the data collection tool, either questionnaire or entry schedules. From the questionnaire or identifying variables and testing the hypothesis, the outcomes of testing hypothesis, that is a variable events for empirical studies. The empirical evidence can be gathered using quantitative research or qualitative research. Quantitative and qualitative research. The quantitative research, what is quantitative research? What is qualitative research? And quantitative research versus qualitative research. The qualitative research and quantitative research, the conceptual difference of quantitative and qualitative research. The qualitative research concern is understanding of human behavior for the information is perspective. That is your the conceptual difference of quantitative data concerned with discovering fact about social phenomena, concerning the discovering of fact with the social phenomena. So that is a difference of quantitative, concept of difference of qualitative and quantitative research. Then methodological difference. Methodological difference. That assumes the dynamic and negotiated reality in the quantitative research. Assumes a fixed and measuring reality in the qualitative research. The data are collected through the participant observations or interviews, qualitative research. The data are collected through the measuring things, the quantitative data. The data are analyzed by the theme from description by the informant. Description for the informant, that is a qualitative research. The data analyzed through the numerical comparisons or numbers, numerical comparisons and statistical inferences, the quantitative research. The data are reported in the language of the informant, that is a quantitative research. The data are reported through the statistical analysis, that is a quantitative research. So these are all the slight differences between quantitative research and qualitative research. Then next we are moved to various method of social science research. Various method of social science research. There are three methods of social science research. Number one, survey method. Number two, case study method. Number three, exposed factor methods. Exposed factor methods. First, survey method. Survey method is a fact-finding inquiries. Survey method is a fact-finding inquiries. So each and every researcher, they have to directly or indirectly met the respondent. That is a fact-finding inquiries. This method of research, the researcher is interested in knowing something about the whole populations. This method is of research is researcher interested to knowing something about the whole populations. These types of research rarely does it. Even one examples, the Indian population survey, census methods, population surveys is conducted every 10 years. PRC studies only sample drawn from the populations. These are the studies is sample drawn from the populations. The sample selected from the universe. The sample is selected from the universe. The data are collected directly from the samples through the data collection techniques. The data collection techniques are observation method, interviewing methods, and mailed questionnaire methods. So these are the one type of method of social science research. The functions of survey methods. The first one, conducted in the natural settings. So natural data only to be collected by the survey methods. The survey method is a field study. The researcher directly met the respondent. Directly or indirectly met the respondent for the purpose of collecting the data. The survey method is a field studies. The survey method seeks to respond directly from the respondent. The immediately respondent the researcher contact the respondent for the purpose of collecting the data. Cover a very large populations. So the large population, we have to select a sample depends upon any one sample selection methods. Another one important functions, the survey method involve an extensive study or intensive studies. That is extensive one and intensive one. So these are the surveys to be conducted in a definite geographical areas. Only to be, for examples, a survey to be conducted as per the taluk wise, or district wise, or state wise, or union wise, or block wise. So particular geographical area to be covered by the researcher for conducting a survey. So these are all the few items of functions of survey methods. Then purpose of survey methods. The main purpose of survey methods provide the information to the government. The survey method provides information to the government. Given one examples, population survey. The population study, they have to give the information about the population as per the state wise, district wise, and block wise. The planner for the business enterprises. The survey to be conducted for the planner for the business enterprises. The business enterprises, they make a decisions from the outcomes of the survey method of research, Then the comparisons of demographic groups, the people differences, the comparisons of people differences, the caste differences, religious differences, educational differences, adult and adolescent differences. So these are comparisons of demographic groups. They have to identifying the survey. Then real group. The survey method, another important purpose for real groups. Then predictions of future events. The survey to be conducted, the predictions of future events, the forecasting technique from the survey. So this is predictions of future events. Then demand forecasting based on the consumer behavior with the cause. Demand forecasting. Given one examples, the company to launching a new product. What is the opinion about the product in the public? That is the opinion in the product in the public. That is the demand forecasting. Based on the consumer behavior with the causes. Then effect relationship. The survey they have to conduct it. What are the needs to be required in a society, or individuals, or a particular group of people? So these are the various purpose for conducting survey methods. Then advantages of survey methods. The survey method possibility for collections of many types of informations from the individuals. Even one examples, the people educational status, the people income status, the people employment status, the people professional status. These are the informations required by the researcher for conducting survey. The next, the ability to draw the generalizations about the large populations on the basis of samples. The researcher, they have to identify the large population for collecting a few items of samples to conducting a research according to the survey methods. In addition with the useful information, the useful instruction for verifying the theories. So these are the theories executed by the researcher for conducting research on the basis of survey methods. To uncover facts previously unknown to the researcher. The uncovered fact previously unknown to the researcher. So they have to, these are the limitations of the studies. Some of the items are excluding, for the executions of research. Then use of various methods of collections of the data. The use of various methods of collections of the data. The observation method of collections of the data, then interview methods of collections of data, and the questionnaire method of collections of data. Each and every method they have to conducting a research. Then limitations. The limitations of survey methods. This method uses to collect the data from the primary sources. So those are survey method only for collecting primary nature of data. That is a first-hand information from the potential respondent. This method is to collect the data from the primary sources. The primary, all the survey method of data collection, they have to primary sources. Hence, its feasibility depends upon the willingness and the cooperations of the respondent. So, the survey conducted by the researcher, the respondent cooperated with the researcher. It is the subject for the sampling errors. So, the sum of the respondent not cooperating for collecting data. So, depends upon the sample selection, they have to occur some sampling error as per the method of sampling. This method depends on primarily on verbal behaviors. This methods are primarily on verbal behavior. That is a verbal based data only collected by the survey methods. Hence, it is a subject to response error memory bias. So there's a real data is not collected by the respondents. So the research is not, the respondent is not cooperating. The respondent is not cooperating. There is a limit of number of informations that can be collected in single survey. So in a single survey, the researcher not able to collect the entire data. That is another one important limitations. Of the survey methods. The survey method is time consuming and money consuming. So the survey is conducting is a costly one. They have to consume money and the time consume money. They have to the researcher facing the problem. So that is another one important limitations of the survey methods. Then some few examples of survey method. The study of political leadership in the political parties. The study of managerial style of top business executives. The study of managerial style of top business executives. A study of factor affecting the industrial locations. A study of buyer behavior in the purchase of office furnitures. A study of attitude of collecting college teachers towards income tax. A study on consumer attitude towards the Nokia cell phones. So ready-made cell phones. So these are these three items of examples of survey method identified by the researcher for executions of research. Then case study methods. That is another one important method of social science research. The case study is the most popular method of research. The case study is a most popular method of research. It is a qualitative research or intensive or stimulating and comprehensive study of social phenomena. Comprehensive, so qualitative. The qualitative research. The qualitative or intensive or stimulating and comprehensive study of social phenomena. Through the field study is comparatively limited, unlike another type of research. So, for example, the case study is a particular profile of the companies. They have to study the particular profile of the company, a particular profile of the or particular group. So, the in-depth comprehensive study on particular persons. The in-depth study on a social group. The study on particular episode, the study on particular process of business executions, the study on particular situations, the study on particular programs, a particular study on particular communities, a particular study on particular institutions and any other social units. social units. So that's an individual study to be chosen by the researcher. These types of studies are case study methods. Case study method of research. Even one examples. A study on financial performance of cement manufacturing, selected cement manufacturing companies. Cement manufacturing companies. There are some few examples of case study method. A social study of rural tribal communities moving from one culture to another, or persons, or group, or industrial concern moving from one place to another place. Then impact of Gulf money on villager in Tanjore district. Localizations of match industries in Sivagasi in Tamil Nadu. Localizations of match industries in Sivagasi in Tamil Nadu. So these are the types of studies for case study method of research. Case study method of research. Another one important examples: individuals, group, or institutions passing from one state to one state of development to another. These types of research under case study method, a study on bonded labor in Kodaikanal Hills. That is case study method. A study of labor participation management in Pottery Mills. A study on labor participation management in Pottery Mills. That is a case study method. A study on lifestyle of working women. The style of working, study on lifestyle of working women. So these are the case study methods relating to individual or group or institutions passing from one state of development to another. One state of development to another. The another one example, behavior oriented case studies. Behavior oriented case studies. The behavioral study and the economic, social, and political stimuli. For examples, impact of prohibitions or lottery in Tamil Nadu. Impact of prohibitions of lottery in Tamil Nadu. That is case study methods. That is case study method of studies. The impact of introductions of what in Tamil Nadu. Value added tax. Impact of introductions of what in Tamil Nadu. That is the case study methods. Then examples for another one case study method. The causative study of failure or successful units. The causative study of failure and successful unit. What is the reason for failure and successful unit? The failure of Madurai Urban Property Bank Limited. Yes, tested. Oh, what are the reason for failure of Madurai Urban Cooperative Bank Limited? That is a case study analysis. The case study of general natures, a study of slum dwellers around Periyar bus stand in Madurai. Around Periyar bus stand in Madurai. A study on urban Muslim poor. So these are the case study methods. So another important method of social science research, ex post facto methods. Ex post facto methods. That's the third one method of social science research. These types of method of social science, it is a systematic field studies. It is a systematic field studies which aims to discovering the relations. It aims to discovering the relations. So these are the interactions among the variables in social situations. These types of studies, interactions among the variables in the social institutions. They have to study the actual life situations. Actual life situations. The social and institutional situation is selected. The relations among the attitudes, values, and perceptions. Behavior of the individuals. Group in the selected situations or studies. So these are the main features of ex post facto methods. Main features of ex post facto methods of social science research. Then main source of information in social science, social research. Main source of information. What are the main source of informations? First information's documents. First information's documents. The published and unpublished documents. maintained by the government or maintained by the organizations or business concerns, maintained by the organization and business concerns. Even one examples, published and unpublished research thesis, published and unpublished research thesis, that is a document. The next one, important information of sources, discussions. The discussions among the individuals, discussions with the experts, discussions with the experts, the concerned with the potential peoples, concerned with the potential peoples. The discuss with the debates, discussions of the debate. The discuss with the conference, discussions at the workshop, discussions at the workshops. These are the information collected from the sources of social science research. Then participations. The participations at the conference, workshop, debate, meeting, exhibitions, meeting, exhibitions. So these are the participation. They have to another one sources of information of social science research. Then information dissemination center, another important source, information dissemination center. The information dissemination center, another one important sources for social science research. Then difficulties of carrying out social science research. Difficulties of carrying out the social science research. There are identifying the 10 constraints or difficulties or barriers of social science research. Number one, problem of finding the investigator. Problem of good investigators, that is guide, research guide. The problem of finding the good investigators. The researcher, they have to first step to identify the research guide. The non-availability of research guide, the potential research guide is not available. It is a problem of social science research. Another one, problem of collecting the information. The researcher, they have to finding research problems, selecting the research title, framing the objectives, The objective related based information is not available, not able to gathering. So that is a collections of information is another one problem faced with the researcher. Problem faced with the researcher. So the title and objective based data is not available or not able to gathering. That is another one important difficulties or constraints of social science research. Third one, problem of analyzing the data. The problem of analyzing data. The each and every researcher not well versed for the statistic applications, statistic applications. They are all adjust with the browsing center. They are giving the analysis of the data. The manual applications is better than the machine-made analysis. Then problem of questionnaires. After framing the hypothesis, the researcher draft the questionnaire incorporating all the objectives of the studies. The framing the questions in the questionnaire, whether they classified open-ended questions or closed-ended questions. Where is framing the open-ended questions? Where is framing the closed-ended questions? These are the problem faced by the researcher. Then complexities of social data. The social data, the social group is complex one. The each and every data not able to collected by the researcher is a complexity one. Is a complexity one. The dynamic nature of social phenomena. Dynamic nature for social phenomena. That today's society not cooperating with the research-based activities. The researcher for met the potential respondent. The group, the social group not cooperating and not responding for given the data. Then problem of maintaining objectivity. The problem of maintaining objectivity. The problem of maintaining objectivity is another important problem faced by the social science researcher. Social science researcher. Difficulty in the verifications of the inferences. Difficulty in the verifications of inferences is another important social research. Then unpredictability, then inadequacy of funds. So these are the another one important problems. So these are all the problems faced by the social science researcher for undertaking the research. The next move to another important area, steps in research. Steps in research. The research is a continuous process. The research is a continuous process in the sense of identifying the problems, selections of title-based objectives, objectives-based data, data-based analysis, analysis-based interpretations, interpretations-based findings, findings-based outcomes, findings-based outcomes. The each and every process connected with each others. The each and every process connected with each others. That is a process of research, or steps of research. The first process, identifying the research problems. Identifying the research problems. The researcher first he got to identify the research problems. That is the first process of research. First process of research. Then selections of problems. They identify the number of problems. Which problem is selected for amicable titles? Amicable titles. Then formulations of selected problems. Then formulations of hypotheses. The conceptualizations. Then research design. Research designs. The first one, identifications of research problems. Identifications of research problems. That is your first steps or first process as first activities. First activities of social science researcher. First is identifying the research problems. The identification of research problem is a difficult task. Difficult task. The problem identified with the experts, consulted with the experts, or discussed with the experts, and with the research guides, are essential to solving these identifications of problems. The researchers themselves should finalize their own topic for their research problems after having thorough discussions with the experts or guides. The researcher himself or herself, they have to identify the own problems, those problems which we will discuss with the experts and the research guides. Experts with the research guides. Then some sources of research problems. Identify the research problems. The theory of researcher for own interest. The theory of researcher own interest. The researcher himself to select the research problems. The problem concerning with the day-to-day activities. The problems concerning with the day-to-day activities. For facing the societies. For facing the societies. The effect of our problem related to the technological changes. The effect on problems related to the technology exists, the recent technology development, how overcome the recent technological development, what are the changes, what are the impact of technological changes, the problem identified through the various organizations, given by examples, labor problems, financial problems, human resource development problems, marketing oriented problems. So these are the problem identified through the various organizations or industries. Then selections of research problems. The right selections of research topic enable the researcher to proceed with his works methodologically or step by step. First, you would identify the problem, then finding the research titles. After that, in addition to help him to avoid unnecessary modifications, first you have to finding the research title. There are no chances for any modifications, omissions, and additions. Hence, it's enabled the researcher to finish his thesis dissertation in time at the minimum cost. So that is a selections of research problems. Then considerations for selecting the topic. What are the points to be taken into account for selections of research titles? What are the points to be taken into account for selections of research topic? Number one, controversial subject should not be taken. The controversial subject should not be taken. Even when examples, religious oriented, caste oriented. So these are the title or sensitive natures. So that is to avoid controversial subjects should not be taken or chosen. The topic should not be too narrow and too vague. The vague subject, the rigid subject cannot be taken into account for selections of research titles. The topic should be familiar. The research title is more familiar one for each and everyone. The researcher has to consider his qualifications, own merit, limitations, training, and the importance of subjects, the time factor, and the cost involved, and the like. So these are the area to be more seriously taken into account for the identifications of research titles. Then significance of the studies. That is a scope. What are the outcomes? How benefited to the societies? What are the beneficiary of the outcomes of the research? So that is the significance of the studies. The problems should be significant one. The researcher has to make sure of the availability and necessary equipment, the adequate library facilities relating to selections of titles. Even one examples. The researcher, they have to undertake the research. You must equipment for even your computers or your laptops, the adequate library facilities for collections of information. So these are the another one considerations to be taken into account for the selections of research titles. Then formulations of research problems. The formulation is nothing but the transforming of selected topic into the scientifically and researchable questions. Researchable questions. Even for examples, the researcher devoted to framing the statement of the problems. What are the possibility for making a queries or questions? What are the questions to be solved from the collections of data? This highlights the importance of proper formulations of selections of problems. The formulations gives a directions and the specific focus on research effort. It prevents the researcher from discriminate gathering of data. Discriminate gathering of data. That is a formulations of research problems. Some process of research. First, developing a title, review of literature, so that is previous studies, scope of the studies, defining the objectives of the study, formulations of hypotheses, limitations of the studies. The research developing a title is a identification of research titles. Research titles. The review of previous studies. The review of previous studies to be collected and verify for identifying the research gaps. Identifying the research gaps. Then scope of the studies. The scope of the studies is the focusing area of the research. The scope of the studies is a focusing area of the research. The objectives of the studies, defining the objectives of the studies. All the objectives relating to the research titles. All the objectives is relating to research titles. Then formulations of hypothesis. The hypothesis formulated by the researcher relating to framed hypothesis. The title, objectives, hypotheses, connected with each and every one. The limitations of the studies. These are the delimiting factors. So some of the factors for excluded for our studies, that is the limitations of the studies. Limitations of the studies. Then choice of theoretical framework for research problems. Choice of theoretical framework for research problems. There are some choice of theoretical framework for research problems. The researcher, they have to collect the several concepts, theories relating to research problems. Based upon these concepts, the theories, researcher has to develop a theoretical framework of research. Even one examples. The researcher, they have to collecting the theories relating to the research titles, presenting and explaining in a research work, easily understood by the reader of the research work. Easily understood by the reader of the research. The main objectives of theoretical framework is reveals his understanding and relevant concepts and theories. Relevant concept theories. Most of the researcher allocate and separate chapter for theoretical framework. Theoretical framework. It presents theoretical framework. Then formulations of hypothesis. Formulations of hypothesis. The formulations of hypothesis are one of the another important steps for social research. The researcher, they have to formulate all the hypotheses based on the research objectives. Based on the research objectives. Even one examples, the purchasing power and income of the respondent. The purchasing power and income of the respondent. These are the two factors. There is a significant relationship between purchasing power and income of the respondent. That is the objective. That is one hypothesis. The hypothesis tentative proportions relating to the investigating approach. Investigating approach. We can formulate one or more hypotheses of the studies. Or number of hypotheses of the studies depends upon the nature of the research work. Depends upon the nature of work. They either describe the properties of the variables or being out the relationship between them. the income of the respondent and purchasing power of the respondent. These are the two variables. What are the relationship between each others? What are the level of relationship to test the hypothesis? The level of relationship of these variables for test the hypothesis. Hence, the data collected may or may not support the hypothesis. And operational definitions on concepts. The operational definitions of concepts. The operational definitions, another one important steps or process or activity of research. Another one, activities of research. The concepts and terms and terminology used in the research. The operational definition must be essential to present at the first chapter of the research work. The concepts are used in every study. They have technical meaning, and operational definitions is different from verbal one. So it is the foremost duty of the researcher to define the terms used, the concept associated with the problem at the outset. This will enable another to understand the research work easily. Then methodological aspects. Methodological aspects, another one important process or steps of research, social science research. Under this step, the researcher has to explain the type of data required for the studies, the type of data required of the studies. The type of data is based on the nature of the research work. The type of data is based on the nature of the research work. Some studies for primary data oriented, some studies are secondary data oriented. The required data of the study depends upon the nature of the research work. The method of collections of such data or tool will be used for this purpose. Even for examples, some of the studies, both on primary and secondary natures. The primary data collected through the data collection technique by the observation method or interview schedule method or questionnaire methods. The secondary data based research work, the published and unpublished document by the government or the business organizations. Even for examples, the financial performance of a particular company. The company published the annual report is an important document for the data of secondary natures. In addition, the researcher has to describe the sample size and the sample technique used by him for the selections of sample frame by the universe. Then research design. The research design is another important steps or important process for social science research. First, introduction, statement of the problems, review of literatures, scope of the studies, objectives of the studies, hypotheses of the studies, operational definitions and concepts, reference periods or period of studies, collections of data, tool for collections of data, sampling procedure, statistical tools used for the analysis, limitations of the study, chapter arrangements, finding and suggestions. So these are the various components involved for the research design. It should be presented by the researcher in your research work. For the matter of introductions, so the theme related informations included in the introductions part of the research design. The statement of the problems includes what are the research questions involved in the research. The review of literatures. The review of literature, they have to present it by the researcher and review the previous studies to identify the research gap of the present studies. Then scope of the studies. The scope of the studies is a focusing area of the research. the objectives of the studies, the objectives of all the objectives framed by the researcher based upon the research titles, Then hypothesis of the studies, each and every hypothesis framed by the researcher based on the framed objectives, the operational definitions and concepts, the terms, concepts used in the research work, it should be presented here for the operational definitions and concepts. Then reference periods, the reference periods for period of studies. The period of studies means the researcher, they have to conduct a survey. That period is a research reference periods. The research work is based on the secondary nature. Given one examples, financial performance of particular companies, there are 10 years data to be examined and scrutinized for applying the research work, that is a reference periods. Then collections of the data. What are the tools used for the collections of the data? It should be presented here. The tools for data collections, whether it is observation or individual or questionnaire methods. Then sampling procedures. What are the method of sampling for chosen for identifying the sample size, whether probability types of sampling or non-probability types of sampling, which sampling is used for his research. Then statistical tools used by the analysis. What are the statistics applied for the analysis of the data? Then limitations of the studies. The researcher not able to include the area of research component to be mentioned in the limitations of the studies. Then chapter arrangements. That is a chapter arrangement is a consensus of thesis, consensus of research work, or consensus of reports. Finally, the finding and the suggestions. The outcomes of the research, that is the findings. The outcomes of the research, that is the findings. They are based on finding the researcher to make some suggestions. These are the research design. The research design is important steps for social science research. Then sampling. Sampling is another one important steps for social science research. The researcher must decide whether the selecting a sample is known sample science. Researcher must decide the way of selecting samples is known as sample designs. The sample is a few items. The few items from the total population or universe. The few items selected for applying methods. That is a sampling techniques. It is a definite plan to determine before the data is actually collected for obtaining the sample from the given populations. Which method should be applied for collecting the sample size? The sample can be either probability of sampling or non-probability of sampling. The probability method of sampling are random sampling or simple random sampling, systematic sampling method, cluster sampling method, the stratified sampling methods. The non-probability sampling methods, convenient sampling methods, or judgment sampling methods, or quota sampling methods. The sampling is another one important. The sampling method of sampling is another one important steps for research in social science. Then collections of data. The data collected by the researcher, whether in primary nature, they have to identify the tool for data collections. There are several ways of collecting and appropriate data. They are observation methods. The observation method is a researcher observe for the potential respondent and collect the information. Personal entry methods. The personal entry methods, the researcher, they have to directly meet to the respondent and collect the fair information, truth information from the potential respondent. Then telephone entry methods. The telephone interview methods for ask the question through the telephone to the potential respondent. Then mailed questionnaires. The sets of structured questionnaire to be sent by the post by the researcher to the concerned respondent, and make it the information and filled questionnaire written to the researcher. That is another one important methods. And through the interest rules, the structure interest rules. The structure interest rules, they have to directly collected by the researcher to the potential respondents. So these are all the some important method of collecting the data. Then analysis of the data. The analysis of the data require a number of close related operations such as establishment categories. The data is collected by the researcher. After collecting the data, some operational work taken by the researcher. The coding operations, editing operation, and the tabulations. The coding operations means it is usually done at the stage from the raw data is transformed as symbol. Even one examples. The researcher identifying the 5 independent variables. The 5 independent variables coded by Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, Q5. So these are the Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, Q5 is a code word. So that is a coding operations of the data. Then the editing operations. It is done at the stage that improves the quality of the data for codings. The coded data, they have to reframed for editing for unwanted things, unwanted informations. These are the informations edited, unwanted information is edited for coding the data. After editing, the researcher for tabulated as per the variables. The tabulations of the data as per the variables, as per the objectives, as per the informations. The tabulations, the stage, the coding data ready for tabulating. It is a part of technical procedures wherein they classify the data put in the form of tables. Then testing hypothesis. That is another one important steps for social science research or process of social science research or activity of social science research. For the analysis of data, various methods are used. These methods are immense assistance to any research in analyzing and interpreting the collections and the collected data or information. The testing hypothesis, the researcher to tabulate the data for applying the appropriate statistics. The testing hypothesis following analysis of the data. While testing hypothesis, the researcher tries to disprove the null hypothesis. These techniques to be used in the research depends upon the various factors like types or availability of data, exposure of the researcher, and the like. And last one, preparations of research report or thesis. So the preparations of research report in standard structure. The important structure of the preparations of research report. Number 1, acknowledgement, the table of content, the table of figures, introductions, main body of the reports, the summary of findings, conclusions, bibliography, and objective appendix. So these are the standard structure of preparations of research report or thesis. Before the research report, before the framing the research report, the researcher, after testing the hypothesis, the interpretations of the outcomes of the research, interpretations of the outcomes of the, that is the findings of the study, findings of the research work, that is outcomes, that is a result of the testing hypothesis. The testing hypothesis, the researcher applied the various appropriate statistics, depends upon the nature of research work. The null hypothesis accepted or rejected. The null hypothesis accepted is one type of inferences and rejected another one type of inferences. So these are the outcomes of the research. The outcomes of research, the researcher to find the research findings, the preparations of research findings. After the research findings, the base the research finding, the researcher to suggestion made by the researcher, suggestion made by the researchers. These are the purpose for future research work. These are the purpose for future research work. So these are the another importances for research work. Then finally, there is a preparations for research report. First, acknowledgements. Acknowledgement is the statement prepared by the researcher, acknowledge the scolding, the research work by the and the holder for research work. Even one examples, research guide, data collect and assistance, analysis part assistance, helping experts, acknowledging the studying institutions or research institutes. There are the acknowledgement for each and every hold the research by the researchers. Then table of content. The table of content is a constructions of thesis as per the chapter arrangements. Table of content is construction of thesis as per the arrangements of chapters. The table of content, it should be generally first introduction research design, second one review of literatures, next part for the body of research, next summary of findings and conclusions. So these are the normal constructions of table of contents. Then table of figures. The researcher, they have placed for explaining the research work. The each and every figures, tables, charts also should be indexed for these table of content. Then introductions of research work. The research design. The introductions to be there in all the introductory part of research design. It should be presented in the introductory part. Then main body of the research report. The main body of the research report, it should be all the analysis parts. Collection technique, analysis of the data, testing hypothesis, finding the research, all should be presented in the main body of the report. The last one, summary of findings and conclusions. The body of the report summed up by the researcher in the summary of findings. Then conclusions. conclusion is a final part of the research report. Final part of the research report. They presented, the researcher, they presented the outcomes of research, how contributed research to the society, how contributed research to the students. These are the informations presented at the conclusions part of the research report. Then last one, bibliography. The bibliography is referred by the researcher, whether it is periodicals, reports, documents, coins, archaeological evidence. These are all to be indexed at the bibliography stage as per the alphabetical orders. The last one, appendix. Appendix is a last part of the preparations of research report. The appendix should be includes what are the documents used, the complete sets of document and publications of research work, any indexed journals, all are should be indexed in the appendix parts. So these are the standard report for research. Okay, I conclude my presentations. I thank each and every one of you. Thank you. Any clarifications or doubt?
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. Sir, good afternoon, sir. What are the difference between the reference and bibliography? You told that discussing the content of the thesis, there is a bibliography. So what are the difference? Every chapter we have put references, and first in index we are putting the bibliography. So what are the difference between the bibliography and reference?
So bibliography in the sense, all the references to be indexed at the end of the research report. But the references should be mentioned in each and every chapter, should be referred at the end of the page.
Yes. And sir, in appendix, we can include our survey questionnaire and our publication also.
Yes. Publication, questionnaire, interview schedules, then any documents, referred document, any calculations, statistical calculations, all are should be indexed only for the purpose of reference for the further readers.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor.
Now may I request Professor Dr. G. Nedumaran Ji to deliver a vote of thanks, please.
Okay, sir. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the resource person of the session, Dr. S. Ganapathy sir, for his very nice deliberation of this presentation on the topic on research methods in social science research. Very nicely presented, sir. I hope that everyone have enjoyed this session, a highly informative session too. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to all the participants.
Thank you, sir.
Participation and interaction of the session. And
Okay,
once
sir.
again, I extend my sincere thanks to all the participants and faculty friends and the organizer of the program, and especially my good friend Dr. Vinayak Murthy sir for this nice opportunity. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving the wonderful session, sir.
Thank you all.
Namaste, sir. Namaste, sir.
We'll meet tomorrow morning, sharply at 9:45. Thank you all. Thank you.